What is up, suppers? It is Deibs, Mr. Crockpot on Twitter. Welcome to the Suit Up Podcast. First things first, the Suit Up Podcast can be found on iTunes and Spotify. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you hit like and subscribe below. Joining us today, I have Jack Connell. Follow him on Twitter, part of the Post Position Podcast. He is Jack Connell TPL. What's up, Jack?
Nothing much, Great season. The Mandalorian just wrapped up. I'm just so ready to talk about it. I love it. Love it.
All right. On tap for today, we are going to give you our top 10 moments from The Mandalorian. Jack, you ready to suit up?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Let's suit up. All right, guys, we are back. We have to start off with Dave, our other co-host of Suit Up, and a major contributor to the Painted Line. Sadly, he just didn't have the time to keep going forward with our podcast and our website. Dave, you will be very much missed as, Suit Up and the Painted Lines. Any comments about Dave, Jack?
He was one of the first people I met at TPL. A couple of my first podcasts I ever did were with him. He's a great guy. I'm going to miss him. I'm sure I'll still talk to him, but I'll miss him around TPL. You'll be missed, Dave.
Very much missed. Hopefully he'll come on as like a reoccurring guest in the near future. Nothing bad happened. He just didn't have the time. He was killing it over there at A Pot Is No Name with his Dark Materials, reading the books and comparing the books to the TV show. Let's get started, Jack. So we're going to give you our top 10 moments from The Mandalorian. Personally, I'm going to probably sound crazy saying this, one of my favorite TV shows of all time already. It's only one season. All right. But let's start off with number 10. Jack, go ahead, man.
My number 10. So I didn't look at the previews or like the cast list for any episodes going into each episode. So I was studying for finals the night before, and then this episode came out. And I watched it. I believe it was episode 6. And I just see Bill Burr over my TV, and I didn't know if I was like having a lucid dream from studying and like sleeping. I didn't know what was going on, but it was real. Bill Burr's a Star Wars episode. I loved it. It was Bill Burr in Star Wars. Like, he wasn't even playing, but he was himself. I loved it. It was great. I miss him. I hope he comes back.
That was a great role, man. Good one. I love your number 10. I don't have that on my list. That's a really good one. I gotta go number 10. Revisiting the cantina in Chapter 5, the gunslinger. On spare auxiliary power after a space fight, Mando and Baby Yoda seek refuge on Mos Eisley, and we return to Tatooine, the same place where we see the cantina in A New Hope. And even better, we're back hanging out at the same place where we were first introduced to Han Solo. The Mandalorian has had its fair share of nostalgic moments, but this was probably my favorite nostalgic moment of the series. We go back to the cantina, but better yet, we're introduced to Toro Calican, and that exchange between Mando and Toro, we're actually now hanging out in the same fucking booth as when Han shot Greedo in A New Hope. That was just a really kind of like a mind fuck for me. That was a really fun moment.
Yeah, that was a great. I kind of forgot about that one. I was throwing this on the fly after work, but I feel like I covered most of my bases. But as soon as I heard it, I was like, shit.
Oh, really good. Let's start us off. Let's go to number 9. I am going to go with Mando. This is a little moment for me, but it had a heavy weight, especially emotionally for me. Number 9 is Mando and Baby Yoda riding off into the sunset in Chapter 4, titled Sanctuary. This episode, Chapter 4, the Mandalorian showed its real true strength in this episode, knowing exactly what it is and what the strengths of Star Wars is and what its meaning is. It is a space Western. So I love this moment. It was Mando and Baby Yoda riding off into a sunset, kind of riding on horses, a speeder. That was a very like Western movie cliche moment. They saved this troubled town being torn apart by bandits, and after rescuing, saving the village, Mando and Baby Yoda just kind of saved the day, and it's just to this beautiful TV film score that was just very memorable. What's your number 9?
It's kind of a mixture of two. It's the Baby Yoda when he's in the ship and he's hitting all the buttons. He's kind of trying to be like cutesy.
The control knob.
Mando's like trying to stop that. And then also kind of like when he accepts Baby Yoda and he kind of gives him the little ball or off the top of the shift.
Control knob, yeah.
I kind of combined those two into one. It's just the ship moments with Baby Yoda.
So good, man. So many like memes and like variations of that scene where Baby Yoda's clicking buttons and Mando like stops it, and then you see Baby Yoda's like hand going out and attention seeking like only a baby would. That was hilarious. Great one. I don't have that on my list, man.
I guess I'll go with my number 7 first, or 8.
Number 8
first. This one I saw it. I was just like, I was so taken back. I was like, what the hell? In the finale, when they're trying to escape, and you see the R2 unit in the rubble, and like it turns on, it's just a buff R2D2, like with arms and legs. I just threw it up there because I just couldn't control myself laughing. Like, it's like something like you've seen in like drawings, like people making memes, but you never would expect to like see TV, and then you just see this R2D2 with hate. Like, I mean, I guess you would say it's an R2 unit. I mean,
okay,
but it's like, what the hell?
I don't have that. I love how this is going. I do not have that on my list. My number 8 is Quill. I have spoken in chapter 2 titled "The Child." We have to include Quill, Nick Nolte's character, in this list because just what an incredible moment for me in chapter 2. Not only one of the main highlights of the episode, but one of the highlights of the series. I think it was one of the strongest characters in the series. In chapter 2, we see Quill embark on this mission to retrieve parts stripped by Jawas, but he decides to repair Mando's ship. And what does he ask in return for repairing Mando's ship? But it's nothing more than a thank you for returning peace to his valley. And I think this was such a huge part of Mando's kind of arc. And for a bounty hunter who lives mission to mission and cashing check to check and armor to armor, like this was such a huge moment for him because it just set the tone for Mando, becoming the hero that we saw him become in chapter 8 with Baby Yoda and everything. Dude, we will miss you, Quill. Rest in peace, brother.
I'm glad. The one thing I'm glad the finale did was that Mando gave him that proper burial with the hat on the tombstone. I'm really glad he got that send off like that. He was definitely one of my top 3 favorite characters from this season so far. I mean, I don't have him on my list, but I mean, he's just so. I mean, I love him. He's kind of just like one of like those wise old men that just kind of old school. It's very easy to recognize. It's kind of hard to describe. If that makes sense.
Yeah, just great character. That was really sad. That tore me apart. And like after watching the finale or the end of chapter 7, there was like in my head, there's no way that Disney was going to kill off this character who was such an important piece to Mando's character in terms of who Mando is. And that was a killer, man. That was really sad. Let's move on to number 7. I'm going to stick to chapter 2. This is Baby Yoda using the Force versus the Mudhorn and saving Mando. So in order to obtain parts needed to repair his ship, Mando and the Jawas agree to a trade and has our main character battling a Mudhorn to obtain an egg. The egg. While on his final leg during battle, Baby Yoda uses the Force lift on the Mudhorn to protect Mando, and Baby Yoda, collapses in exhaustion. That was such an epic moment for the fact that we were kind of guessing on earlier episodes of Suit Up, especially after the premiere, like how soon do you think we'll see Baby Yoda use the Force? We were all thinking like he'll probably save it for the finale. Guess what? It was the next fucking episode. That was a huge moment. What's your number 7?
My number 7 was the arc of IG-88. Kind of just, it was IG-88 or was it IG-10?
IG-11?
IG-11. So many IGs. But,
not OGs.
but his arc, he's kind of like Mando. He's very obviously against droids. Obviously, super battle droids, and his backstory and how they kind of like took out his parents and stuff like that. That whole story, and kind of how he's always been against droids the entire series. In this last episode, he finally comes around to IG-11, saving Baby Yoda, kind of just protecting them, and he's very against this self-destruct. And once he just finally let him go, I got a little upset seeing him kind of like falling apart. He's strutting through the lava, and he just blows himself up, and he saves the rest of the group. I mean, it was hopefully some way they can bring him back somehow, reprogram a different IG droid or something. But he was definitely a great character up there and one of my favorite arcs. You got anything to say about that?
One, if there's anything the Mandalorian did correctly was they nailed the side characters. And 2, I think we're going to be seeing that one on my list in a little bit. All right, let's move on to number 6. The number 6 best moment of the Mandalorian for me was the Mando fight scene versus the gang. This was chapter 6 titled The Prisoner. One of my favorite moments from chapter 6 came from the tonal shift around the last act of the episode. After rescuing the prisoner and being betrayed by his own team, we see Mando escape the prison by breaking off the arm of a nearby droid, unlocks the door, which I'm 100% positive that Sean Connery from The Rock would be super impressed. I hope you saw that movie. The last third of chapter 6 was just the highlight where the episode quickly turns into this game of cat and mouse, and the hunt was on, man. We see Mando just pick off team member after team member, like watching The Predator. And that was a really cool moment. There was a lot of really neat coloring and just contrasts in these fight scenes. And it was just really, really memorable for me. And it kind of established Mando. This might also sound crazy, and I'm going to actually get into this in another favorite moment later on. But Mando fighting in the shadows, man, there's nothing better.
Oh, no. I mean, I was about to say before you kind of said, I was like, I felt like that episode was directed by Ridley Scott, just like the alien-esque, like.
Yes, absolutely.
It literally felt like a movie. It felt like Alien. It literally did.
Absolutely, I fully agree. What's your number 6, man?
My number 6 is I didn't want to do too many force moments. I had one force moment. It felt like it's bigger as it's going to set up a lot more lore-wise throughout the entire expanded universe. But that was Baby Yoda force healing.
Yeah. Using
force to heal the bounty hunter guild leader. I forget his name, loses me at this moment, but you saw it in the Rise of Skywalker, and it's probably going to be seen a lot more throughout this, like the rest of the Star Wars universe. But I feel like that was kind of a neat introduction to something that we might be seeing a lot more of later on.
That was probably like the biggest tie-in, because it was almost like Game of Thrones season 8. Like I spent months and months and months like thinking of these theories and what's going to happen in very much the same way I did with the Mandalorian and the Rise of Skywalker. How is it going to tie in? Why would they deliberately put the last episode of the Mandalorian the week after the Rise of Skywalker? Like, what's the tie-in? And honestly, it was probably the Force heal, because we really didn't see a live-action Force heal until the Mandalorian, Baby Yoda. Then we saw it in Rise of Skywalker. Spoiler warning, I guess.
It's been weeks.
I mean, we're weeks after it opened. Yeah. I think everything's fair game right now, right, man?
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah. My number 5. It's something I feel like we kind of talked about since episode 1. We were looking forward to seeing it. It happened on us a little quicker than we anticipated. Kind of the other thing we talked about. It's Mandalorian getting his full set of armor, the brand new.
Man, you're still now we're starting to cross paths here. All right.
But I mean, that was just such a cool moment seeing him come out in the all chrome, knew how every single thing brand new. I loved it. I kind of like the idea we kind of talked about, like the piece by piece, kind of like an RPG, but he kind of all got it at once. Still, either way, it was really cool, really great to see. That was my number 5. What was yours?
My number 5 is IG-11 Sacrifice in Chapter 8. You touched on it, but I was a huge fan of IG-11 in Chapter 1 when awesome introduction, awesome kind of dynamic between Mando and IG-11. Love the droid bias. Was it predictable? Was Chapter 8 predictable? Yes. Everyone saw the sacrifice, kind of happening before us. But my favorite moment from IG-11 came from when he took off Mando's helmet and healing him and returning him to safety. In many ways, IG-11 understood and knew Mando, our main character, better and more than anyone else in the freaking Star Wars galaxy, which is pretty interesting considering how much the show centered on his droid bias and his flashbacks and all of that. But just extremely emotional moment when he just kind of sacrifices himself and blows everything up and saves the day. I was really hoping Mando would be kind of teased as part of Mando's crew for season 2. It didn't happen. It makes sense in the overall arc for Mando and IG-11. Everything makes sense. I'm not angry about that, but it was glorious. That was just an epic moment.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. I mean, like I talked about, I loved it. It was very emotional to see. But so, I guess you can go first with your number 4, and then we'll see how I go after.
Well, you already took it. My number 4 is the armor scene of This Is the Way, tied with the introduction of Mando's Beskar armor set. And one of my favorite parts of the Sin, Chapter 3, had to be the League of... I got a couple here because they're in the same episode. It's that League of Shadows style of action scenes in this episode. I mentioned earlier that I love Mando fighting in the dark, and this was the episode where we see some really, truly epic stealth kills by Mando, just jaw-dropping kills. My top moment was Mando pulling the stormtrooper to him with a grappling hook and then finishing him off with a sword through the back. And then we had an unforgettable moment of the whistling birds feature of his armor where he just he's surrounded by stormtroopers and it knocks them all out. And we got introduced to Mando's weapon, which started to disintegrate bounty hunter after bounty hunter. That was a really, really cool moment. And then Chapter 3, of course, established Mando as one of the deadliest killers in the galaxy. And watching him in that armor as he walks into the cantina and all those bounty hunters are staring at him jealous. Yeah, he's walking in like LeVar Ball walking into like ESPN, like just true badass. That was just an epic moment.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. It was definitely, like I talked about, it was awesome. My number 4 was a cliffhanger. I forget. I think it was episode 5. At the end, the bounty was killed, and all you see is the boots, the spur. It's led to believe to possibly be Boba Fett. Who knows? I want it to be Boba Fett. I would love for it to be Boba Fett. But I love those kind of cliffhangers. Just make you think, open-ended type stuff. I mean, that's why. I mean, you probably don't even have that on your list. But that was something I loved a lot to see. But that was my number 4.
Love it. I was really hoping that it was going to be Boba Fett because that would have been a really cool. It had to be Boba Fett, right? I mean, I'm pretty much dead set that it was Boba Fett. Probably my least favorite episode, but that cliffhanger was epic. I was really hoping that Boba Fett would have been. How cool would it have been to have Boba Fett versus like Mando in like a season 2 conflict or something like that? That would have been awesome.
Still can happen.
You never know. Really good number 4. Do you want to lead us off with number 3?
Sure. It was kind of seen towards the end. Oh, maybe casual fans don't know about it. I really don't know much about it, but it's just such a cool thing. I kind of read out after the episode at the Darksaber.
Yeah.
Still more than this. But I mean, the Darksaber. I mean, I believe I have it right in lore. It was a former Mandalorian weapon that was taken from them. It's like I said, it's pretty much just a sword. It's got like it's reversed. It's like black with white. Obviously, everybody saw who watched the finale, but it's just such a cool weapon. we're starting to get more and more into this Jedi lightsaber lore type stuff. While I love the Mandalorian, it's great to see these glimpses of stuff. Like Rogue One kind of explained, like we've seen the pinnacle of all of these highlights of fights, but Rogue One kind of showed it best that like those top things are ridiculous to lower level, like these Mandalorians, all these type of people, because they're just like world beaters or they stuff that like completely changed the landscape for them. Like no, not all of them would die into a Jedi or to a lightsaber or anything like that. None of them would ever get to see the Emperor or Darth Vader or stuff like that. But see something like the dark saber, kind of, I feel like that's gonna be a pinnacle great thing of this next season, because I feel like Mando's gonna know what that is. He's gonna want it back, and it's gonna be a huge conflict.
That is my number 2, the Darksaber reveal. Did you watch Star Wars Rebels or Clone Wars by chance?
That's my next one. I've been so busy. That's the next thing I want to watch. So, I mean, I know the Clone Wars is coming to Disney Plus soon, or it's on there, and the new season's coming out soon, something like that. That's the next thing I have to get into. Rebels, I've seen bits and pieces of. Like I said, I kind of researched them and kind of know a little bit, but I've never really fully watched it through.
Yes, my number 2 is the Darksaber reveal. As a huge fan of those animated series, that tie-in, that reveal of the Darksaber, man, I completely geeked out in that moment. If you follow Suit Up on Twitter, I was just going absolutely crazy. Could that signal, you look down there, bum, 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 the year of Sabine Wren, could that signal a tie-in to Star Wars Rebels in the future? And a live action Sabine Wren. So yeah, the Darksaber has major tie-ins with the Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels. After training with Jedi Kanan Jarrus, Sabine Wren obtains the Darksaber and returns it to her homeworld and to signal the unification of her people of Mandalore. And then in later episodes, Sabine gives the Darksaber to Bo-Katan, a warrior who Sabine sees as the true leader of the Mandalorian people. So the real question here from this finale was, how does Moff Gideon obtain the Darksaber from Bo-Katan? And fingers crossed this becomes a new storyline. I think we're going to touch on this when we're finished with our top 10. I think you can see where this is going. But anyway, I suggest all fans of the Suit Up podcast check out especially Star Wars Rebels, which can be found on Disney Plus. One of the best animated shows of all time, man. I couldn't recommend it more. I was talking about it with our friend Shane from A Pot Us No Name today. He's going to start watching it. Dude, it's so epic. I can't even express how epic that show is, man. Especially the story involving the Darksaber.
Yeah, I mean, I'll definitely have to check that out. Did you say your number 3 yet?
My number 3 is Mando takes down a TIE fighter via jetpack. This was the finale, Chapter 8, Redemption. Mandalorian finale gave us one of the best Mando moments of the season. And in one of the last scenes, we see Mando take down Moff Gideon's TIE fighter. The cinematography of the scene was absolutely fantastic. And we see the TIE fighter go down and Mando landing safely with his brand new jetpack. That just, between the Signet and the jetpack, man, the finale was so good. But I really adored how this series was all about Mando completing his, Mandalorian armor set. That was just a really cool RPG, nod, and I just really, really enjoyed it. So yeah, it was just a really cool moment and one of the most badass moments for Mando this season.
All right. I mean, my number 2 is kind of a prequel to that. It's when they're on, when they're getting the bounty hunter and they're kind of enclosed on bounty hunters are coming in on them. Here we go. Come to save the day. The rest of the Mandalorians, they come in, they save. It's just like they take everybody out. It's just incredible, and it's just a great scene to watch. It was a great fight scene beforehand, but just seeing them was just incredible to see. The giant bounty hunter is just like all the Mandalorians are awesome, and like obviously he's going away in his ship, and then it's kind of the foreshadowing. You see the one flying away, gives him the little salute with the jetpack. He's like, I got to get me one of those.
Yeah, that was a really, really cool moment. That was I love how this show established kind of the Mandalorian culture a little bit. In that same episode, especially with the armor, because I had a nod in a previous think it was like number 8 or number 9 of my list. But you see kind of how the Mandalorians interact. It's kind of an alpha society, and this is the way, and then the people sticking up for each other. That was a really cool moment, man. And then before that, you had kind of that was kind of the prequel of Mando taking on that fatherhood role for Baby Yoda. If you remember, they were kind of like surrounded by those bounty hunters, and he kind of like looks into Baby Yoda's eyes, like there was definitely a tender moment that kind of was a major shift for Mando's character in that moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I would agree. I mean, I guess that was a great moment. So
good.
You ready for number 1?
Let's do number 1, man.
Who's going first, Mario?
Go ahead, dude. Lead us up.
My number 1 is the first appearance of Baby Yoda. The first episode.
Me too.
But I mean, it was just, we all thought the Mandalorian. We didn't know which way it was gonna go. We knew it was gonna be a great show, and then it was like this holy crap moment. Like I don't think anybody expected that a Baby Yoda, anything like this. I mean, it was just a great reveal. It was well done because they say throughout the episode it's a 50-year-old, so you're thinking like it's this middle-aged dude. Like who knows who it's gonna be? And lo and behold, it's a sweet innocent infant. But I thought it was great. I mean, it sums up everything about Baby Yoda in like 5 seconds. But that was my favorite moment.
My number 1 is Baby Yoda. The reveal, man. Chapter 1. The reveal of Chapter 1 just hit in all the right areas, dude. For 40 minutes, we were exposed to the Mandalorian, Mando, the character, as this like stoic, emotionless, ruthless bounty hunter that's just merciless. And he was deserted as a child, and he's an orphan. And the last scene of Chapter 1, we see Mando reconnecting with his childhood, and as he reaches for Baby Yoda's hand, and that final moments of Chapter 1, man, just what a heart-filled moment that was. That really set up an incredible season of The Mandalorian. It's definitely number 1. I mean, how could I not pick the Baby Yoda reveal? Do you want to talk about what we want to see from season 2?
Well, now let's do it. I mean, we're already here to talk about. I mean, the one thing my prediction of what I think is going to happen, we kind of talked about. I think it's going to be a MacGuffin type thing. It's going to be the fight for the Darksaber. I feel like it's going to be Moff Gideon versus the Mandalorian. It's just be back and forth. I feel like I have a feeling it's going to exchange hands several times. It's going to go back and forth, back and forth. Boba Fett will end up with it at least once. That is my prediction. And then I think it's going to be a fight for that. Baby Yoda is going to be stuck along a ride, and I feel like he might be held for ransom. I just have a feeling there's just so much. It's going to be a MacGuffin around the Darksaber.
I really hope so. I fully agree. And I really hope we see, because we saw the flashback as a device in season 1, and I would really love to see the flashback in season 2 with Moff Gideon and how he obtains the Darksaber from Bo-Katan. And I really want to see Sabine Wren come into play, knowing that the Darksaber is, not with her people, and she, does something about it. That would be really fun. We also saw it tease a little bit that, basically Mando is the protector of Baby Yoda. And if it's of age or take it to his home, we don't really know much about the Yoda species. So, we're going to be finding more and more and more about Baby Yoda species. And I think that is very exciting for season 2. Obviously, any kind of tie-ins to Star Wars Rebels would be awesome. We're also going to start getting into Deborah Chow's Obi-Wan series, probably by the time season 2 rolls out. Maybe there's a tie-in there. Dude, there's so many avenues this show could go, and it's just been absolutely a joy to watch. What else could happen?
Here's a food for thought. So I'm trying to think. Is Baby Yoda? Was that on Tatooine?
What's that?
Was Baby Yoda initially on Tatooine?
I don't think we know that for sure. It was a similar planet.
What if Obi-Wan and I forget his name, I've spoken. What if they somehow cross paths?
I know.
Because you
I think it's a pretty much a lock that we're going to see the Mandalorian continue to do what it's going to do is give you throwbacks to the original trilogy, and the more this is where I'll go with this is I hated the Rise of Skywalker. I really disliked it. I I thought it was just an amusement park ride. It was a fun popcorn flick that did nothing more and nothing new. It just was a throwback to, all these nostalgic moments of the Rise of Skywalker. In the end, doesn't make a good movie. And for legit months, man, I kept wanting to see the Mandalorian tie into the Rise of Skywalker somehow, and somehow tie into Palpatine, which we don't know anything about. We saw clones of Snoke. We don't know anything about. Who then knows? Who knows what's going on with the clone idea? Because I think I went on a tangent for months and months about Baby Yoda and clones and all whatever. But after watching the Rise of Skywalker, made me respect the Mandalorian even more because it's its own Star Wars story, and I really hope that's the direction season 2 goes. Is that fair?
Yeah, I would agree. Now, here's a question for you, kind of off. So they say the next sequel or the next trilogy is not going to be anything related to Skywalker. Likely, probably going to be the Old Republic. Would you agree?
Oh my God. So if they make Knights of the Old, well, apparently Rise of Skywalker did make Knights of the Old Republic canon, somehow. So that's definitely on the table. If they make that a live action series, that's a huge hit for Star Wars. The other thing I really want to see is Ahsoka Tano in the Obi-Wan series, because that is if you have to watch Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebel, because she is an animated character in both of those and has major tie-ins, and I won't tell you how, but she is a phenomenal character learning her Jedi powers and all that kind of stuff. And if they can tie that into Obi-Wan and maybe a season 2 of Mandalorian, that would be a huge hit. And I don't really want to tell you anything more about Star Wars Rebels, man, because I think there are so many times in that show that is just jaw dropping. Because all I recommend, man, and promise me, just get through season 1, the season 1 finale of Star Wars Rebels, leading into season 2, 3, and 4 is one of the best shows of all time.
All right.
Dude, if any Star Wars fan will just be like, ah!
My second half of my question was, so how many years do you think it takes? Because they said this is the end of the Skywalker saga, but we both know that, well, that's not the truth.
Oh, I hope it's done, man. I hope it's done.
I was going to say how many years, I would like for it to be done, but I was going to say how many years do you think it takes until they make an episode 10?
Oh, dude, just let it die. In the words of Kylo Ren, let the past die. I think that was one of the reasons why I was so upset about The Rise of Skywalker. Is it a bad movie? Absolutely not. It's just, was it good enough? No. But The Rise of Skywalker ended, and the Skywalker saga, I was happy that it was finally over. I didn't want it to end, man. Like
I know.
It was one of those, like, I'm leaving the theater, and I didn't want it. Heading into theater, I didn't want it to end. I'm already like emotional, crying during the credits and all that kind of stuff. And then I'm leaving the theater, and it was like, that's it. Like, I don't know. Like, it is what it is. It was just there was too much. There was too many problems with not the film, but Disney overall. Like the direction of the trilogy in itself was the problem. It was very obvious from the jump of Rise of Skywalker that they didn't have a plan from movie to movie to movie. And that first like 45 minutes of the Rise of Skywalker, man, it's correcting everything from The Last Jedi, and it just became easy and convenient. And there a lot of the twists, like with Palpatine and kind of stuff. Did some of it make sense? I guess. But in the big story, see, I think I'm in the minority here, man. I really enjoyed The Last Jedi. I really enjoyed The Last Jedi and how it, turned everything on its head and kind of made, the last arc unpredictable. You didn't know what was going to happen. And just there were just many moments in The Rise of Skywalker that I just disagreed with completely. What about you?
I mean, I agree. I mean, it was just I feel like it was very rushed. I feel like if they split it into two halves and they explained everything and worked it out, I feel like it would have been good. It just felt like it was too pushed.
Rush is a really good word for that because do I agree or disagree with Rey being a Palpatine? No, but that had to be set up in The Last Jedi. That had to be fleshed out, and her, being conflicted with the light and the dark, that needed way more time. And it just kind of took away a lot of the emotional moments in The Rise of Skywalker for me. It just, they didn't hit. And I think that was the big problem, was Disney didn't have a plan for this series, which is unbelievable for a $1 billion franchise like Star Wars. Like, how does that happen, man?
Yeah, it sucks. Well, I mean, hopefully we can feel the Old Republic trilogy if it happens. We the Obi-Wan show, we the Mandalorian. We have so much other good things going on. I like to focus on the good rather than the bad.
Oh man, I mean, Deborah, I think another really big storyline of The Mandalorian is Deborah Chow, who directed 2 episodes of The Mandalorian, and I think they were like the best. There was like The Sin, and it was one of like the later episodes. And she's going to be the showrunner for Obi-Wan, and if she is kind of giving us a tease of what the show Obi-Wan can be, man, like if I don't want to say anything more about Star Wars. Let's say there are things in Star Wars Rebels that Obi-Wan show should be about. And it would be it's a no-brainer hit of a show to get ratings.
I think I know what I think I said, like, I've seen bits and pieces of Rebels, so I think I know exactly what you're talking about.
I'm sure you do. I'm sure you do. So it would be so fun.
And Sith.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Any last comments before we wrap this up, man?
No, I mean, it was a great season of Mandalorian. I mean, I'm excited. It's a quick turnaround. October of next year, 2020. Well, I guess if you're watching this this year, October 2020. But yeah. I'm excited. It's going to be great. We're really looking forward to it. It's a great time. Outside Rise of Skywalker, it's a great time to be a Star Wars fan.
Absolutely. Make sure you follow Jack on Twitter at JackConnellTPL. His podcast is also called The Post Position. It deals with a lot of like general NBA and college kind of stuff. Check it out. I'm Mr. Crockpot on Twitter. Make sure you follow all of our Star Wars and comic book and superhero content at SuitUpTPL on Twitter and thepaintedlines.com for Jack, for myself. The year of Sabine Wren, right?
You're right.
Take it easy, guys. Stay awesome.